And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another Sanfl snapshot. I know it has not been a short time. It has been a long time since I have talked with these two wonderful gentlemen about the fantastic Sanfl and Sanflw. It's been, I think, like 6 weeks, fellas. It's been way too long since I have had the pleasure of seeing you both. We'll start off. Woodville West Torrance, mega fan, and he is got to be up and about the way the women's side of his team has been playing. Mr. Darce Evans, Darce, it is great to see you, sir.
Coach Donny, Phil, how you going? It's exciting times for us. You can see I've got the old perfect hat on at the moment, but one week at a time, as the old cliche says. But we're looking okay at the moment, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it later. But problem is when you're on top at the moment now, guys, is we've got this stalker hanging around at the moment. I know he's sort of barracking for Centrals, and he was up at the Woody West Torrens club rooms one night having dinner there, and he pretended he had a free meal or something. So he's hanging around the Woodville clubs, and then he pretended he was calling a game at West Adelaide a few weeks ago. So he's hanging around, he's around there, this bloke, just trying to find out what the secrets are of the Woody West Torrens women at the moment. So anyway, over to you guys. Yes.
Are we trying to say a doggy is changing his colors? No, I am just kidding. And caller extraordinaire. And I know last week we were gonna have the podcast, but he gets the call up. He gets to call the state game. It is probably an honor. Whether the result was probably worth jumping up is we'll leave it up to him. The awesome voice of the Sandful, Mr. Phil Aspinall. Phil, it is great to see you, sir.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys as well, Coach Donny, and of course, Das, up and about, flying high are your Eagles. But no, I'll be honest, Das, it was the free food. I can't say no to a free schnitzel. Members night, I thought I'd bump into your good self, and it was great to have a chat with
Yes,
you and
we
to
certainly
introduce my
did.
wife and
It's
son to you.
good.
So it was a good
Great.
night all round and a good start to the Sanflw season for your lovely Eagles.
Yeah, a free feed is never a bad thing for sure. And trust me, I would know. So it is awesome. But it is great to see you fellas again. We've 6 weeks. I know it's been way too long. But the one thing is, we've been treated to some amazing footy. There's been some great storylines. There's been some not so great storylines when it comes to Sandford footy. But you know what? Let's talk about it. I cannot wait. So we have rounds 5 through 8 to go through for the women, and rounds 3 through 6. I know some state games threw us off. So technically, though it's been 6 weeks, there's only really been 4 games that we've missed for the women and 3 games for the men. So Phil, will jump to you, sir. Thoughts on what's happened so far? Because at least on the women's side, we have a team running away with the competition, and then the men's side, some battling between several teams. It's been interesting, despite the few amount of games that there's some intrigue on both sides on both competitions.
Yeah, look, it's been fascinating, and I think for mine, the story across both the men's and the women's has to be I don't want to say surprise form of the Eagles, but the Woodville West Torrens girls being a top of the table, undefeated. I know Das will be obviously very satisfied with the results that they've shown there. But for mine, it's not just a short-term fix and a short-term reward for effort. It's been the long term that Narelle Smith, their coach, has put in. She's now full time there. She's given up a pretty long career as a police detective and is working full time and really yielding the results of having some talent coming through the local zones, but also that, and I talk about it often, organic growth. And girls have
Hmm.
now been in the Sanfl system for the Eagles for a couple of years. They've had some hiccups along the way. Losing
Yep.
Poppy Waterford definitely doesn't help, but they've
Yeah.
shown, unlike previous years, that they've got depth to cover it. And for mine, they've been the story of the year so far. The Eagles girls are certainly flying.
Yeah. So, all right, Darce, get your bragging in since you didn't get the shot last time. How up and about are you with the fact that, like I said, your women undefeated and have been impressive what they've been able to do on in the women's side?
It is like the culture. You can feel it. You feel the culture down there at the moment. That's what it's all about. Like last year was with the team managers there. The culture was there. But this year there's something much stronger. I think you got to Poppy Waterford. She's even out there on the boundary last weekend. She's out for probably 12 months, but she's out there yelling, screaming, encouraging all. That's the sort of person she is, and I think that's what is bringing this team together this year. It's been fantastic. The
Mhm.
music they play before the game. I don't know if you guys have heard it. It just does my head in.
Yep.
But mate,
Yep.
it does. It drives
I
these
think
girls,
Das,
and
I think
they.
I think Donny can hear it in America.
I
Wouldn't be
can. He
surprised.
would, but it does my head in. But the girls love it. They're dancing around. They're really getting the motivation going, and Neril just leaves them alone. And mate, they come out. Must say we haven't done it easy in the first quarter for these games, but
Mhm.
after that first quarter, that's when we start to play some really good footy. And as you can see from the scores, we run away with it in the last half.
Yeah, definitely. The conditioning has been ridiculous. I know there've been a couple of times I've got into the second half, and
Yeah.
it's like the Eagles just they hit that extra button. They have that extra gear that some of the teams that they're playing just don't, and it just becomes overwhelming. Like if they can't kick goals and they're kicking behind, it's constant pressure. So I've loved their style. They showed flashes of it last year with their ability, their kicking, and their ability to move the footy. And this year, it's like everything has clicked, and it has
Mhm.
been fantastic.
Absolutely.
I know there's still plenty to go. Again, a 14 round season. We're 8 rounds in, 6 rounds left. They're pretty much a lock for the finals. The question will be is can they win minor premiers? And then how do they go up against some of the teams that do have finals experience? This will be the Eagles' first ever experience in the finals. So let's talk about it. Let's go to the women's rounds 5 through 8. Again, the one thing we'll know is the Woodville West Torrens do not lose in any of these games, but there's been some intriguing matchups. I'm fascinated to see your guys' thought process on this. We'll start off round 5. So several weeks ago, all the way back to April, again, 6 weeks, I know has been kind of crazy, as North Adelaide continue their very well good season this year with a win over the Central District's Bulldogs 57-22. Sturt keeps the Glenelg Payne City going as they knock off the Tigers 47-31. The Woodville West Torrens go to High Sense Stadium and knock off the Bloods 40-22. And Sturt just edge out the Red Lakes 45-42. A classic game between Sturt and Norwood has to be game of the round. Phil, your thoughts of this round? And I mean, 3 points. Woodville Norwood just falls short to the Double Blues.
Yeah, it was a fascinating contest and an important win for Sturt in terms of their chances to stay around the hunt for the top four. We know that the Eagles went about their business nicely and in a low scoring game got the job done. I think the surprise result for mine was how comfortably North Adelaide took care of Central District.
Yep.
I called the league game, the men's league game. So this was one of the 3 games on the day and headed along early to watch this one. And as disappointing as the Dogs were, and spoke to Central coach Ben Hunt after the game, he was pretty ropeable. He basically said, I'm swinging the axe after this week, and he made some wholesale changes the week after. But we've got to remember there's some class in that North Adelaide side, led beautifully by former captain Julia Clark and April Crooks, who kicked a couple of goals each on the day. So no surprise that North Adelaide got the win. Probably more surprising how comfortable they did it.
Mhm. Yep, I'm 100% with you, and we'll go to you, Darce, on the Woodville West Torrens games again. A 6-4, 3-4, an 18-point win over Woodville West Torrens, and the momentum is starting to get going. You're always, like I said, through round 5, still undefeated. The girls were up and about. It's fantastic. I mean, how good was it to see this a win on the road? Because sometimes it's never easy to go on the road and get a win.
I think that was our first on the road. I reckon we've had every game before that at home or at the our over at Ottawa. I'm pretty sure
Yep.
could have been away, but yeah, it was too. Yeah, so it was okay. First away on the road, West Adelaide they're doing okay, and we actually struggled in that first quarter, halfway through the second, and then again as we spoke about before, guys, it was just halfway through the second quarter, and the rest of the game they just ran away with it. I think they kicked 4 goals in that half, so it
Yep.
was up there. I think Westies ran up at quarter time, but yeah, after half time, the Eagles their fitness they're just running away with it. But I think as what did surprise me was probably the Red Leagues. Norwood, they're struggling this year, but they only just lost to Sturt, who are they're currently sitting fifth at the moment, and also well, the Panthers they are one of the top echelons in this league, and the Tigers who are struggling also only. Look, if they kicked a little bit straighter, it could have been a
Yep.
pretty close game there as well. So look at these two sides. I mean, all in all, that competition that weekend was a pretty close all up.
Yeah. Definitely was. So we'll move on to round 6 and a slog, tough, hard game of footy as Norwood survive a challenge by the Glenelg Tigers 19-8. The Central District's Bulldogs get a win at Hisense Stadium against the West Adelaide Bloods 46-34. The Eagles keep on rolling at home as they get a nice win over North Adelaide 60-19, and South Adelaide making sure that they are staying as close as they possibly can to the Eagles with a 62-21 win over Sturt. So I know it's low scoring, but I love a good crack. But man, if you're Norwood, you're kicking yourself because this could have been a bigger score if
Yeah.
you just kick straight 2-7.
Yeah, from over to me. So yeah, these are the two sides that are struggling. So it'd be their I think it was probably their first win for the year for these. And as you said, Norwood 2-7. It could have been 5 or 6. You know what I mean? So, but two sides struggling. Norwood got the biscuits, but it was probably a slow game all day. But the Bloods, they're half struggling against the Bulldogs. That was a good win by the Bulldogs to come back from what they. So the changes they made then, Phil must have
Mm.
worked because they come out and beat the Red Westies. And Eagles, of course, that was a great game by the. Again, Eagles were struggling at quarter time, just ran over in the last 3 quarters. And look, the Panthers, I know we're going to talk about this later, but we have them this week. And when you've got big wins like that against the classy side Sturt, I think they're the ones that we really have to watch. And this week's going to be the tester for us.
Definitely for sure.
Yeah, and for mine, I saw a bit of the Norwood Glenelg game. It was played post the men's game on Anzac Day, so this was a really important day for footy on the SA calendar. And I left at halftime thinking, yeah, this is a bit of an arm wrestle, a bit of a slog. And when I got home and saw the scores, I thought, well, Norwood probably got away with one there. And yeah, as you guys touched on, the inaccuracy cost them perhaps some percentage come finals time. As we touched on, great to see Central bounce back and Caitlin Rosenzweig again amongst the goals. Lauren Briggy, who's fast becoming one of my favourite Sanflw players to commentate, played for SA. She kicked 3 goals and was really important. So, yeah, the Bloods had their opportunities, 14 scoring shots to 12, so they probably should have been better in front of goal. And then I was lucky enough to commentate the women's game between the Eagles and North Adelaide. And sadly, it was the day that Poppy Waterford went down with her knee and season ending ACL injury. But apart from North Adelaide leading at quarter time, I think from memory they were kicking with a slight breeze. The Eagles never looked headed after that, and they were
Hmm.
fantastic. Mackenzie Dowrick came in for her first game, and she just looked like she was going to be the X factor. She kicked 4 goals, took away the focus, I think, on Claudia O'Neill. She probably was
Hmm.
the key
I agree.
forward prior to Mackenzie coming in, and what that means is it's the second or third best defender that now goes to O'Neill
Yeah.
because Rosette Zarella's there as well.
Yep.
So I think what was already a strength of the Eagles was just strengthened even more. And
Exactly.
Dowrick
Yep.
probably could have kicked 6 in the end. She had 4-2 on the day, and she
Mhm.
was sensational for mine, a clear standout best player. And then if you're Michael McDonald in the Sturt Footy Club, you'd be disappointed. You had a good win against Norwood the week before, up against one of the benchmarks in South, and didn't really put up a showing. And South should have won this one by a lot more, but
Mhm.
comfortable victors in the end for the Panthers by 41 points.
Panthers are just they're just so damn consistent. They just no matter who they lose, no
Yeah.
matter what things go, they're just there. And
Oh,
it's great to see the consistency. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. It's something that I think so many clubs in the Sanflw would want to emulate because they're almost always there. It just doesn't matter who they lose. They lose girls to the draft, they lose girls to retirement, they lose girls to other teams, and yet they still find a way that they're
super
there.
consistent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, and under
Ju-
Rick
always
Just with,
there.
Watts,
yeah.
yeah, under Rick Watts guys, they pardon the pun, but they're purring along nicely. Yes, they're going to have some up and downs,
Yep.
but they are a super consistent team. And let's be honest, they've been the benchmark in the history of the
Yep.
competition so far in terms of
Yep.
premierships.
I was just following from Phil's about Mackenzie. She that was the first game in 12 months. She did a
Mm.
knee
Yep.
12
She
months
did her knee
ago,
the year
come back,
before. Yep.
first game back. Yep, first, and she was on the Crows list from memory. I think she was on the
Yep.
Crows,
yeah,
Brisbane, and West Coast. So she's
oh,
been
she
in the AFL
was.
system for a fair bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
so not playing for 12 months, then coming kicking 4 goals, that was just class, we thought. So no, good on
And
her.
comes from good football genes as well, because her sister
Hmm.
Abby, of course, is dominating for
Is
Port Adelaide Power at
absolute gun.
AFLW
Yep.
level.
Oh, is that
Yep.
right?
Yep. Her
Yeah,
sister is
it's
an
her sister.
absolute gun for Port
Yeah,
Adelaide.
okay,
Yep.
yeah,
They're
okay.
Yep.
yeah, absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic. And the best part is she comes in, so it kind of stabilizes the loss of
yeah,
Poppy Waterford. I know it's not in the
Mm.
same part of the ground, but it gives more coaches more headaches. I
yeah,
100% agree with you. When I saw she was back in, it was like, oh no, like
Mhm.
they're already a high scoring team. And
Yeah,
then we'll go to this next round where they decide to hold my beer moment and do even more.
yeah.
But holy crap, like
yeah,
they become even more deadly going forward. You don't know what poison you want to take. So it's going to be fun to watch this Woodville West Torrens team, especially as we said, this round facing South Adelaide. I cannot wait. I'm literally looking at my Sanfl Now app going, what time is that game? And I'm looking at it and it's a Friday night at 9:40 my time. I'm like, iPad's going to be up. I am going to watch this game because it is going
Perfect
to be
timing.
magnificent. Cannot wait to see these two titans of this particular season go. So we'll reel it back in, coach. All right. We'll go to round set. We'll go to round 7 now. Start off in Hisense Stadium where Sturt go on the road and get a nice win over North Adelaide by 7, 27. The South Adelaide Panthers continue another strong season with a win over Central Districts 43-25. North Adelaide nip the Norwood Redlegs 51-30. And as I said, holy crap, I've not seen this number in the Sanflw as long as I have paid attention. As Woodville West Torrens put a whooping on the Glenelg Tigers. I'm getting Geelong Cats and ugh. Slow down. It's early in the morning. I apologize in this one, but Woodville West Torrens puts up 90 points over Glenelg, 90-35, 14 goals, six. I'm sitting here going, this could have almost been scarily even bigger if Woodville was Torrance kicked straight. But let's go to the game around. That has to be Hisense Stadium Sturt just getting the win over West Adelaide. A cracking game of footy between these two teams. Phil, I mean, a fun round of footy, but you have to say, game of the round has to be Sturt versus West Adelaide, the opener of the round.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I think both sides would have been keen to make amends for their disappointing losses the week prior, particularly West Adelaide against Central Districts, who were poor. And Sturt, they're a consistent team. They don't have any superstars. I like to consider them as a champion team as opposed to a team of champions. And I think since losing their superstar captain in Kate Harris, she obviously retired in the summer. They've got a lot of young girls coming through, and they've got some good depth. Their development side went deep into finals, and I think Sturt certainly showed that they're going to be around the mark come finals time. And Bruce Thor and the West Adelaide girls will be disappointed they let that one drop. No surprise to see South Adelaide get the points against the Doggies. Central were a little bit inaccurate, but South certainly just had them at arm's reach from what I saw of the highlights. North Adelaide, we know that they're an improved team on this year. Kelly Bowltrop's doing a wonderful job with them. And then, yeah, you touched on it, and no doubt Das will be on cloud nine from that performance from memory. I'll have to double check my stats with Phil Herden, but I think they equaled the highest Sanflw score kicked in this contest, 14,690. It would be remiss of me, guys, not to mention Claudia O'Neill, 6 goals
Yeah.
straight. She is a
Mhm.
Yep.
talent to burn. I've called her at state level for under 18s.
Yep.
She will play AFLW, mark my words, no doubt,
Yep.
even as early as next year. So the Tigers certainly, back and improving again, and obviously get a win coming up against Central. But the Eagles machine just keeps powering on under Narelle Smith.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
with Claudia O'Neill, the 6 goals was a record that we led to believe, and it was the equal highest score ever. But we did kick the highest quarter score ever. Now, guys, apologies, I didn't grab that. I was supposed to grab that from the reel yesterday, but I didn't. But it was the highest. I know it was the highest score in one quarter that we did score. So the third quarter it was. So it was a great day. But look at the other games too. It wasn't any surprises, but it would have been a crack of a game to Sturt West Adelaide. I think Sturt. Look, Central Districts and Panthers. Panthers just keep on rolling on, doing their thing. And then North Adelaide and Redlegs. Look, Redlegs, they went right out of it. And maybe 6 points, a couple more points there would have been a lot closer. But there looks like Redlegs have always been there. Just we don't know if it's poor kicking or just brush behinds, but it seems to be just that quite a few points they're kicking. Then obviously the Glenelg and the Eagles game. So again, it was one of those games. The first quarter, I think we're actually down at quarter time. And it was just the foot went on the pedal, and after quarter time, away we went. So it was a cracking game to watch too. I watched it from the boundary, of course, and cracking game to watch.
Yeah, I remember I remember waking up because I had something to do, so I couldn't watch any of the games live. And I remember looking at the score because it's like, what game do I really want to sit down and watch full? And I remember seeing the score of the Woodville West going, wow.
Mm.
Just in awe. I could not. I know that Woodville West Torrens has been solid and Glenelg has had their struggles, but was not expecting that score. So that was absolutely insane. So, and I'm going to do something just a little bit different for this last round. I'm going to do it in backwards order because I think we got to talk about the first game last because it was probably the best game of the
Yeah.
round for sure. There's no argument on that. So we'll start at the last game and go to the first because I have to do it because it was just too impressive of a game to waste talking first. So we'll start off. Last game of the round was actually Sounds versus Sturt. Sounds get a win by 43, 63-20. Woodville West Torrens with a nice little 50-point win over Norwood, 57-70. What North Adelaide spank the Bloods, 34-4. But the game of the round, I mean, considering all the others were blowouts, was Glenelg getting their first win of the season over
Yeah.
Central District's Bulldogs 49-46 in an absolutely classic roller coaster. I have no idea how this game is going to end until the final horn goes off and we get a goal after the siren to get the Tigers' first win of the season. I know Phil is bumming a little bit because the Central District Bulldogs happened to be the team that they beat. But man, am I happy for these Tigers girls because they've been toiling at the bottom, haven't had a win. They've taken some bad losses. They've competed in some games and fallen short. But to see them get a win, the joy on their faces, I know I went back and forth with Jess Bates and just the relief of getting the win is so good. And I think this could springboard them. I'm hoping, again, whether they make finals or not, I probably don't think so. I think they're just a little bit too far. But man, was this a great game to watch and to see a goal after the siren. They just found a way to get it done. Happy for the Tigers, bummed for the doggies because it was still a really good game, high scoring. The doggies, again, a little bit like some, they're kicking themselves 6-10. They kick a couple straight. They probably win this game of footy. Phil, your thoughts on this one? I know. Tough for the doggies loss, but happy for the Glenelg girls to get a win for the season.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think I've touched on it before, for every loss that you have, you're closer to your next win. And yeah, exactly right. For girls like Jess Bates, who toils away week in, week out, and particularly for their coach, Talia Radan, she'll feel like she's, vindicated with the system that she's put in place. There's obviously a lot of changes through the off season. They did turn over a fair amount of players. But one player that they brought into the program, which they'll be very pleased with, was the goal kicking superstar winner, Katie Whitaker. She
Mhm.
crossed over from Norwood in the off season, wasn't able to play league football at the Redlegs, and she was the star. She's a very tall, thin blonde girl from the top end in Darwin and knows where the goals are. She's a great contested mark. She took a pack mark with literally seconds to go, went back and with a bit of composure slotted it from about 30 out. So, yeah, vindication for the Tigers. As you said, they've been around the mark for a little while. I've seen them a fair bit over the course of the year and seen progression from them each week. And then backwards progression, we talk about West Adelaide, and I thought that they'd be an improved side this year. And their last month of footy has been very average. And to only put 4 points on the board, very disappointing, no doubt, for Coach Bruce Dawes. North Adelaide continue on their way and were comfortable in that victory. Speaking of comfortable, we don't really need to say too much about the Eagles because we know that they're literally flying. Again, a good spread of goal kickers, not relying on the one or two.
Mhm.
And great to see as well. Well done to South Adelaide. Well done to the Sanfl. They took the footy to Strathalbyn, so an hour or so outside of South Adelaide's country zone. So good to see local footy out in the country region. And the Panthers were just too strong in the end, as you said. 43 points, the victors over the Double Blues.
Yep. So, and I want to get this in because I know that they really talked about it a lot. In I know Chrissy Steen and I can't remember who was the caller on this, but the fact this was Glenelg's 100th Sanfl W game and they get a
Yep.
win. So it's like it was a centenary game for the Sanfl W for the Glenelg Tigers, and they get the win in such exciting fashion. I wanted to make sure that I got that in there. It was like,
Yeah, the other
I,
caller was young Eden Abbott, who was part of history. I'll just touch on them very quickly. Eden Abbott and Beck Northcote the fortnight prior created history, becoming the first Sanfl W combination of women to call both play-by-play
Hmm.
positions. And there was a nice little article in the local footy budget, and I shared on my socials. And yeah, Eden Abbott was the one who called the winning goal through for Katie Whitaker, and great to have more women coming through our Sanfl commentary ranks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to hear several of the all women crews. It's been great. It's been great to be able to hear that. And I know, and Chrissy Steen has so much experience calling games, and they were both absolutely they were hilarious. Like I
Let's just say the decibel meter was popping.
exactly, but I absolutely loved it. They were in the game. They were excited. They kept me interested the entire time. So I gotta again tip my cap to their call because it was fantastic. I mean, Darce again a nice win for the Eagles. And again, as we kind of said off mic, is Narelle is keeping it level. She's
Yeah,
keeping it
absolutely
level.
she is. Yep.
She's not letting these girls get too high.
No, look, Nora was fantastic. As I said, look, you have that quick, you celebrate afterwards, you sing the song, and then
Yep.
we sit down. We talk, it's upbeat, but it's not upbeat. It's like, yeah, we can do a few things, and well done here. It's just all on an even par, and the girls are fully behind that, which is great. So, but I must say, Leah Cutting. Our ruckman, she is an absolute. What she did on Saturday was just one of the best games of football from a female I've seen in the women's league. And she's an ex-Red League player. She played in that first grand final ever in the Sanfl W for Norwood, and then she went to St Kilda and Essendon, and she's back at. She decided to come to Eagles, and I want to back her for probably the equivalent to the Magarey Medal of the best and fairest in the competition this year. She has been an absolute superstar for us. Now that obviously Poppy's won't be playing, I think I'll give it to Leah Cutting now. There's an early call for you guys, but I've watched all the games and all the teams. I think Leah's, as a ruckman, she just does it all day, works all day, and she's a gun this year. Not like she was last year as well. So, but and South, they just keep on keeping on with their good wins, and they're the ones as we'll probably talk about shortly, but they're the ones we're playing this week. So it'll be a good game to be involved in this week.
Yeah, we
Just
will.
on Leah Cutting,
Go
sorry
ahead.
guys, just on Leah Cutting, she is an absolute star of the competition.
Yeah.
I actually do agree with Das. I think she'll probably win the best and fairest. I just quickly crunched her numbers. She leads the hitouts by 51 over
Yeah.
Soraya Moon. So over 8 games, she's averaging 34 hitouts. But for mine, it's her around the ground work as well. So she'll
Agree.
win the hitout. She'll follow up with a clearance. She'll put
100%.
on a
Yeah.
crunching tackle. She'll get an inside 50. She's just not a tap ruck. She's a tap midfielder. She's
Yeah.
almost like the Harry Boyd
Yep.
of the women's competition.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. I
Just
was
at
gonna
Nord
say
last
that
year.
Yeah.
that midfielding rock, that the tall rock that can play the midfield position is becoming more in vogue both in the women's and the men's competitions in AFL and AFLW and then the state leagues too. You're starting to see more of the tall, almost lanky rocks. They're not the big bodied, just I mean rhino type of rocks anymore. You're starting
Mm.
to see that progression and change in the competition. So, and Leah is fantastic.
Yeah.
I agree with Phil. Like she does the tap, and she doesn't just stand there or lump around. Nope, she gets in it. She has to make a tackle.
Yeah.
She makes a tackle. She has to get a disposal. She has to get down low to pick up a ground ball to get it to one of her quick midfielders. She does it, and
Yeah.
she's fun to watch because and she gets all the ground. Her fitness is fantastic. Yeah, no, 100% with you.
She's a police officer by trade as well. And what
She
many
is.
people don't
Yes.
know is she took 6 months of unpaid leave to be in the AFLW system. She headed over to Melbourne without any guarantee of a contract. She played for the top up side for St Kilda, played some footy with Essendon, but she took 6 months of unpaid
Wow.
leave from the police force to have a crack at the elite level. She's got high standards. She's
Mhm.
represented Australia at
Yeah.
Olympics before, I think, in swimming.
Swimming.
Um,
Yep.
and she's a wonderful person as well. I've got to know her a little bit over the last couple of years, and she's just passionate, a teammate that she'd be first picked by Narelle every week. She'd be put on the clipboard and straight into
Yeah.
the ruck position. So great dedication from Leah, and also good to see that she was rewarded at 33 years of age. Sorry, Leah, I know you probably don't want us to say that, but at 33 years of age, she was rewarded with a state jumper when she
Yep.
played against the Vics and was very good in that game as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. No, 100%. And then before we go to the men, there has been a little bit of news as yesterday I was chatting about the AFLW. My lovely Phil Aspinall sends me a message and goes, "There's some news."
Mm.
Unfortunately, not the greatest news and never the news that I like talking about, especially considering it hits close to home. And that is, unfortunately, Norwood and Brad Farrell, the Norwood women's coach, has decided to step down effective immediately, and the interim coach will be his wife, Allie Farrell. It's one of those I'm in such a mixed emotions on this one because I want Brad to be his best, and it sounds like it is not just the footy results or the reason that he is stepping down, though unfortunately they aren't. I think probably what a lot of people expected is, again, mea culpa in the last episode when it comes to Norwood, is that there have been a few things in his personal life that have really kind of affected him and the way things are going. So again, I've reached out to him again, getting my best well wishes. I'm hoping that he gets himself in the best headspace again. Incredible human being, so kind to me. Again, I love him to death. He's
Yeah.
been so kind. He sat down with a podcast for me and talked with me. I've bounced ideas coaching wise off of him. So again, Brad, our thoughts are with you again. It stinks that you have to step away. You've been such a great pillar for the Norwood Footy Club on the women's side, but we just want you to be at your best no matter what happens. Allie will now take over again. I wish Allie all the best. I think she's a bright young coach that I cannot wait to see her touch on this Norwood Footy Club. And I wish her nothing but the best. Crossing my fingers she gets the head job. Whether she does or not, I
Mhm.
don't know. But I will. I will sit here and say this. It's tough. It is a hard situation to go through. Mental health, again, we've seen so much of the mental health space in the AFL, especially with
Mm.
events that have recently happened. So again, I just want Brad to be in the best mental health space that he possibly can. So again, our thoughts are with you, Brad. Again, I know it sucks to walk away from a job,
100%.
but you need to do what's best for you mentally, and I want that for him and for his family. I know him and Allie are so close, and I love both of those two super to death. So again, thank you, Brad, for what you've done. Best of luck to Allie as the interim at Norwood. So I don't know if you two fellas have anything more to go off of that. Again, I just wanted to.
I think you summed it up beautifully, Donny. But I
Yeah,
did
you
also
did,
want to
Johnny.
say, I think what probably needs to be focused on the most is the courage that Brad's had to come out and actually address the fact that it's a bit of everything. It's life getting a bit too much in terms of his current employment. He lost a friend recently, and that mental health has played its toll. So I think full credit to Brad for being a strong enough man. I think as men we all really like to tuck things inside and not necessarily show our emotions on the outside. And mental health has become more pertinent in society in general, but with men, I think it's particularly pertinent. And we saw, as you touched on, with the Selwood brothers tragically taking their own lives in the period of a couple of months. So wonderful work by Brad. He's always been so giving of his time whenever I've wanted to talk to him about games or commentating insights. And as we know, Ali's great to fill the void for that. She was their development coach. She's Norwood through and through, and I think they're in good hands with Ali. But yeah, congratulations to Brad. Got them through to a grand final last year, but mainly not congratulations for your football efforts on the field, Brad. Well done for sticking to yourself, sticking true to yourself, and coming out and saying that you can't handle the situation with coaching, with life, and with footy, and that you've got to make your life the priority. So well done.
100%.
100%,
Well said,
100%.
guys.
Yep. So, and again, I've reached out to both and sent my well wishes. I won't. There's nothing else that needs to be said on that. So again, I wanted to make sure it's that just happened last night. Like I was literally talking with doing my AFL round review, and Phil sent me the press release from the Norwood website, and man, it took me through 2 or 3 minutes to just gather myself because it kind of came out of nowhere. I know, like I said, I know the Norwood results hadn't been there, and again, I'm not in South Australia, so some of the little things like the mental health things that Brad's had to deal with is not something I'm 100% aware on. But I agree I echo you, Phil, that for him to have the courage to step out and to do that
Mm,
again, all power to you, Brad.
kudos.
You are a perfect example of what needs to be done nowadays because it's not easy. It is not easy as males in a male dominated sport when it comes to it to say, hey, I'm not right. And I
And it's
appreciate it.
important. It's important, Donny. We've got public examples of where blokes are able to come out and say this. And I think even
Yep.
importantly that Brad's in the spotlight to some extent, being a coach at a semi-professional football club. So for him to be able to do that, he's setting the example, and
Yep.
he's actually
Exactly.
showing people that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to come out and say that you're not okay. So well done
Yep.
again.
Yep, 100%. So we'll get back to the footy. We'll jump over to the men's side of the competition, and we have rounds 3 through 6 to go through again. The oddball of all of these of the state games has thrown it off just the tiniest bit. So we go to round 3, plus we also had gather round in between all of this as well. So been some fun when it comes to the total number. So we'll jump all the way back to round 3. We start off Sturt get a win over the mighty Redlegs 81 to 40. Woodville West Torrens get a win over West Adelaide 101 to 63. Central District's Bulldogs with a nice smackdown of North Adelaide 147-71. A classic at Stratorama Stadium as the Crows edge out the Tigers 98-94. And Yartapulti, Port Adelaide, depending on when you go through it. Port Adelaide get a win over South Adelaide, 104-83. I mean, let's go to it. Two of the best teams in the competition, a team that has really looked good this year at Adelaide, and a Glenelg Tigers team back-to-back premierships with an absolute classic 98-94. Phil, I mean, this was a classic at Stratorama Stadium.
It was. It was a fantastic game, and I listened to a fantastic call from young Paddy Goldsmith and veteran Chris Kendall really commentate this one beautifully. The game went right down to the wire. I think it was maybe a 2-goal lead to the Crows at the final change, and and Glenelg, if not for perhaps a little bit of kicking inaccuracy in the final term and an ankle injury to Liam McBean, their captain, who still managed to play under hindrance and kick 4 goals. Luke Reynolds kicked 4 as well. But this was a high standard quality game of football and almost a bit of a precursor for, I think, the standard that we'll see come finals time. And I think we'll feature both these two sides in the finals action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darcy, your thoughts?
No, agree with Phil. I mean, I saw the Tigers not last Saturday, Saturday before, because the Eagles played the Tigers down there, and they were good Tigers. They were hard, fast, strong, and haven't seen the Crows yet. But I think just looking down where they're on the ladder, and these two sides, the 2 points in it, that's or 4 points, sorry, it's going to be ball terror coming into the year with these two sides in the finals.
Yeah, definitely. They're right up. We're right up there. So it'll be
Yeah.
fascinating to see on that one. So we jump to a round 4. Ex-Convenience Oval sees the Central District Bulldogs with a nice win over Port Adelaide, 110-64. Glenelg Tigers bounce back from the loss at Stratorama and get a nice win over Norwood, 119-76. The South Adelaide Panthers give a scare to North Adelaide with only falling by 7, 73-66. Woodville West Torrens get a nice, impressive win over Adelaide, 90-69, and Sturt get a win over West Adelaide, 117-41. So, unfortunately, some lopsided scores, but a classic one at McGain Stadium as North Adelaide go on the road, but South Adelaide gives them a run, and the Roosters just barely pull out the win. Darcy, your thoughts on this particular round?
Yeah, that would have been a cracker game too down there, Panthers. But not they're both doing just both out of the 5 at the moment. I see. So North, no, they're 2 games out of the 5. So and I'm not sure we're talking about what happened to the North coaches as well during the week. So, but it would have been a cracker game. South Adelaide probably are struggling just with the 1 win, and North with the 2. So these teams got to probably lift a bit because, as I said, North 2 games out of the 5 already, and we're coming to nearly halfway through the season.
Yep, Phil.
Yeah, a couple of things that stood out for mine was first of all out at Ex-Convenience Oval for only, I think, the second time in 7 years, the Doggies kick 100 points for back-to-back weeks in a row and showing that they've got some firepower that we probably weren't expecting them to have. We know that they've been a good team defensively in recent years, got through to a prelim, but they're sharing the load. They've brought in a couple of selective recruits, and so they've got some guys that are stepping up from consistent reserves footy last year. So the Doggies, perhaps surprising in terms of their high winning prowess, and of course touched up North Adelaide quite convincingly the week before. And then I was lucky enough on Anzac Day, a special day on the calendar, as we said, saw the Tigers take care of Norwood in what was a pretty one-sided affair for mostly the first half of the game. And then the Lockie Hosey show after that kicked 8 goals straight, including 7 after half time. So he was very well held, very quiet in the first half, and then just went crazy after that and won himself the medal for the best on ground. And kudos to the Eagles as well. I thought, based on how well the Crows took care of the Tigers the week before in the tight game, I think this was a really important and big win for Sam Jacobs and the Eagles because it just shows that they're going to be up and about against the teams more fancied than them. And this was played at Montane Kia Oval. Caught this one on replay and thought this was a really good game of footy and an important win. And some of the youngsters for the Eagles that perhaps at the start of the year you might not have known too much about, a Jet Hastings and a Daniel Sladejevic, who's been in the system for a little bit. But I think that organic growth, it's a word I like to use. But the Eagles have got that with some of their younger guys coming through and got an important win.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. We'll jump to round 5 as the Eagles start to round off with a nice, impressive win over Port Adelaide, 77-52. Central Districts continue another strong one at Ex-Convenience Oval with a win over South Adelaide, 88-34. The Adelaide Crows get a win over Norwood, 89-68. A classic as two teams that have fought for premierships over the last couple of years renew their rivalry with a win for Sturt, 73-65. And West Adelaide get a win over the Roosters, 71-58. So, I mean, again, these two teams love to lock horns in Sturt and Glenelg, and they just seem to always give us some classic ones. Phil, your thoughts on this one? Because game of the round has to be Sturt versus Glenelg in this round.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think I've touched on it a few times in the earlier episodes that this, to me, might be a bit of a curtain raiser to the grand final. And Sturt were challenged. Glenelg are a good side. They were perhaps a bit off their game with their goal kicking. I don't think they like the really smaller confines of Unley. I know their ground, obviously, at Stratorama is a little bit smaller, but I think Sturt are a very good team and play a very well-driven process under Marty Matner. And great to see them hang on for an important win to become the only undefeated side in the competition so far.
Yeah, Darcy, your thoughts on the round?
No, that would have been a crack. I mean, as well, probably Phil knows more than as well as you, Donny, that the Sturt Glenelg that's been around for hundreds of years. That
Yeah.
and just goes to show these two sides, top of the table already. Been a fantastic grand final if these two do play it off. But there's the Crows there and Eagles there, just sliding into fifth, 2 games clear. But I think now the Bloods, West Adelaide had their first win of the year over North Adelaide. Which was a great win to them. And West Adelaide, there have been all sorts of issues over the last year. They've had their president resign, they've got a new president, their CEO resigned, they just have recently appointed a new CEO. So I think this was a bit of a relief for them, all in all, to win their first game for the year because they have, when I say hemorrhaging, it's probably a bit of a harsh word, but financially they're in trouble. But I think that hopefully we get some sort of momentum that they are competitive. North Adelaide, they're sitting sixth at the moment, so not as if North are down the bottom either. But well done the Westies for that first win, and hopefully they can get another couple in the end of the year as well.
And the other
Definitely.
thing it did, guys, was obviously the upset win. You'd say it was an upset because North would have
Yeah.
gone in as favourites, but inevitably and eventually it consigned Jacob Surgeon to being sacked by the North Adelaide Footy Club, which is a surprise, I guess, at the time of the year that it was, and the fact that, as Das touched on, they're sitting in sixth position. And somewhat ironic that Alison Surgeon, Jacob's wife, is the current administrator at the West Adelaide Footy Club. So that would have been a bit of an awkward dinner chat, a
That's
dinner
right.
table chat that evening.
Yeah.
But North Adelaide move on. Sam Mays, who's a former power listed
Yeah.
player and a local North Adelaide boy, he's their interim coach for the remainder of the season. So, changing of the guard at the Roosters. Surgeon was there for 6 years, took them to a grand final. Obviously, won a reserves premiership there as well. But changes are afoot. And normally you see a reaction from the team the following week when their coach gets sacked halfway through the year.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So, and then we'll go last round 2 weeks ago because this last week we had the state game, and we'll just by the look on my two co-hosts' face, it's not something that they really want to discuss when it comes to the results. So we'll go to round six. My apologies on that one. So, round six starts off Hisense Stadium. The Central Districts Bulldogs get a nice win on the road, 117-61 over the Bloods. The showdown light, as I like to call it, between Adelaide and Port Adelaide sees the Crows get a win over Port Adelaide 88-43. The Norwood Redlegs get a win on the road at South Adelaide 81-51. An absolute classic. Stratorama Stadium, Glenelg, why do you always seem to be in the best game of the round as they survive a scare from the Woodville West Torrens Eagles 66-62, and Sturt keeps on going with a nice win over North Adelaide 97-74. I mean, Glenelg, I don't know if you should be happy or a little sad because you keep playing in great games, but they always seem to be close as the Tigers survive a scare from Woodville West Torrens. Darce, as the Eagles supporter that you are, I mean, this was great, but you're kind of kicking yourselves. You just fall short to
Oh,
the
we
to the
were gut
Tigers.
wrenched. This is a gut wrenching game. This one, I was at this game as the girls played just before the league, which is it's good to have that crowd there to watch the girls as well. But this was such a seesawing game. I think the Eagles were up by 3 goals at quarter time, and then the Glenelg were up by 3 goals at half time, and then it was a seesawing effort. I think we lost it in the last kick of the day. We're pretty sure in the last 2 minutes, just from memory. But gut wrenching. If Eagles just they just got over the line to the Tigers. If when they're up with about 2 minutes to go, we just would have given that bit of gee whiz, we've beaten the Tigers. We were top of the table, second of the table at the moment. So just a gut wrench for the Eagles. Well done to get this close to it. So well done to get this close. It does show that we're really in the market to playing the good sides. And we beat the
Definitely.
Crows the week before, who were sitting third. So
Mhm. Yeah.
yes,
Phil, your thoughts on this classic between the Eagles and the Tigers?
Well, I was lucky enough to commentate it with broadcasting veteran in Neil Cross. It was the first time I've worked with Crossy in 10 years, and it was a great game. We had a wonderful showcase game of footy, and Das was right. The Eagles were certainly in the mix, and if the game had gone for another 3 or 4 minutes, I
yeah,
suspect the momentum in that last term might have seen the Eagles get over the line. They kicked in that final quarter 4 goals, and the Tigers managed only 3 behinds. And great to see Nick Hayes, a premiership player, returning to play with brother Jack. First time since I think the 2020 grand final that those
it
two boys
is.
played in the same
Yep,
side. And I've been super impressed. I touched on him before. But former Panther Daniel Sladojevic just brings a different look to the Eagles forward line in the similar mould to the Dan and Troy Menzel type player. Not your most athletic, but very reliable, good goal kicker in front of goal. And if not for the Tigers' inaccuracy in that final term, the Eagles may have pinched it. But yeah, that was a fascinating game in what was an intriguing round of footy. I did shoot the gun a bit earlier talking about West Adelaide consigning Jacob Surgeon to his coaching career. It was the week after in this game where Sturt defeated the Roosters, and Surgeon was finished up with the Roosters during the week of that game. Norwood, an important win for them. Their first win. They get off the canvas
Yeah.
and get their first win under Jade Sheedy. And in the showdown, the Sanfl showdown, no surprise to see the result there. And the Doggies just continue on their merry way with a big win over the Bloods.
Yeah, I have to chuckle at that is the Showdown Light. It's doesn't have the same. I don't think it has the same vitriol that the Showdown does, but it's just awesome to see those two teams get after it in that, and it's been fun. Like you said, the men's competition is just been. It's still early, so there's still a lot of things. There's still a lot of moving parts in that, but you're kind of seeing the cream rise to the top a little bit. In fact, in my burning questions, I'm fascinated to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So we're to it. That's it. That's all the rounds done. 4 rounds apiece for both competitions. Again, the footy has been fantastic in the Sanfl competitions. Let's jump to the burning questions. And Darce, I'm going to start with you because, again, like I said, you have to be chuffed. I know that I bet the entire Eagles organization has probably got to be absolutely flying, pardon the pun on this one, but the Eagles are unbeaten. Can they go unbeaten through the regular season? And if not, who do you think is the side you're the most worried could take the O from their L column?
I was actually thinking the other day, guys, about what it has been. We talk about Narelle, the players, the youth coming through. It's actually the Powerade that's made by the team managers. I think each week they get that Powerade just right each week for the girls, and it just gets that right amount into their bodies and keeps them fit and healthy. So, but no, guys, in all seriousness, I think look, South is probably we're playing South this week. They're the only ones that we are obviously thinking. They're killing some teams as well as what we are. So this weekend is going to be an absolute cracker game. Will you be calling it, Phil? I hope you'll be down there to call the game at Woodville over there. So
No, not this weekend, mate. I'm moving house. I'm doing the Friday night league game at the parade, but
gotcha.
I will be. I will have the phone in my pocket and be listening to the audio stream of it because it will be a cracking contest.
Yep.
We're playing before the league too, so it's going to be a big crowd down there for the girls as well. So which is great. I love seeing that because it does give the crowds down there see this is good football as well, which I really like that the Sanfl do that. So, but South Adelaide, I think this weekend is going to be a crack of a game to watch,
All
be
right,
part
Phil,
of.
can they go unbeaten? And if not, again, who's the team you think gives them the first loss if it happens?
Yeah, look, I'm always hesitant to say whether a team will go through undefeated because it so rarely happens. It so rarely happens, particularly at semi-professional level. But, and this comes with a big caveat, the Eagles are not doing nothing wrong to show that there's going to be a team that can defeat them. I do agree with everyone. I think South will give them the biggest shake. But for mine, I didn't really touch on it too much at the start. What probably impresses me the most for the Eagles is their balance of offense and defense. They lead the competition in points for. They're the most mildly team in terms of points against. And it's not too often you see a team with a 10 percentage point advantage on their next closest rival. So, look, you think the law of averages are going to say they'll drop a game. And will it be this week against South Adelaide? If it's not, I am penciled in to commentate the game against North Adelaide in a couple of weeks at Prospect, and I think that'll be an entertaining game.
Yep, I
And
agree.
maybe that might be the one
Yeah.
that they'll drop. But for mine, I honestly, my gut says I don't think they'll go the season undefeated, but they're doing everything in their powers right now to show that they're more than capable of doing so. And what's to say that they can't? History's there to be changed. But I think we'll see maybe 1 or 2 losses by the season end from the Eagles.
Yep. No, I'm 100. I was going to say the same thing. I'm like the law of averages says they're going to lose one, and I've always subscribed to this. Sometimes a loss for a team like this is perfect because it gives them a little bit of that motivation back. Because sometimes when you're winning all these games, you kind of lose a little bit of your motivation. And again, I don't think Norella's even let this seep into these girls' mind frames just by what I'm seeing and the results and everything like that. But it can happen sometimes that you get a little bit ahead of yourself. You get your head in the clouds a little bit. I don't think it'll happen, but I agree. I think it's South Adelaide is the most dangerous team because they have been so consistent. They have been there. My worry is maybe they go undefeated during the regular season, but then they stumble in finals because this is a team that's
That'd
never
be the
made finals.
worst. Yeah.
Exactly. They've never made finals. So that's kind of my worry. Like I think honestly what I'd be worried about if I was an Eagles supporter is they go undefeated during the regular season and then their struggles start to happen in finals when it gets tighter, when it gets more physical, when it gets the pressure goes up. So that's the way I look at it. This one this week at home against South Adelaide,
Yeah.
it is megaton big because you win this, you pretty much almost guarantee yourselves minor premiership unless you have a debacle of the last
Mhm.
part of the season, because you'll have two games on the second best team. So you got even more of
Yeah.
a buffer. So
Yeah.
so this is a huge one when it comes to the minor premiership. When it comes to the season as a whole, I'm hoping, I really, it would be fantastic to see him go unbeaten. But I've seen, I mean, I'll throw it in here. I know this is sample one. The waffle competition the last couple of years, the team that's gone undefeated into the grand final has lost.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I've seen it happen before where a team has gone the entire season, Claremont a couple of years ago, undefeated the entire season, had not lost to East Fremantle. East Fremantle pips them in the grand final.
Mm.
That
Yep.
shows you it all comes down. If it comes down to one game, anything can happen. I get hoping Norella can pull it off. It would be magnificent to
Yeah.
see it happen, but it's gonna be a fun one. I cannot wait to watch that one for sure. And then we'll end on we'll go to the next one. We're just past halfway through the season. And I know Darce's answer, so Darce's answer most likely on this. So Phil, will go to you. What so far is the story of the season?
Darcy Evans' ability to give the girls Powerade at Woodville Oval. Without a shadow of a doubt, they would not be in the position that they are with that first-hand experience of the Powerade man. He's
Oh
giving
man.
them all the power that they need. In all seriousness, we touch on that lightheartedly, but it is without a shadow of a doubt the Eagles, because you can only go off of what we've seen historically. They're, along with Central Districts, the newest team in the Sanfl. And let's be honest, and Darce will agree with this, that you would pencil in a win prior to this season. Every time you come up against the Eagles, you could almost certainly think, okay, we're probably going to get the points here and might even boost our percentage.
Easy.
Um,
Yeah.
so to turn it around the way they have, it's not necessarily been the results, it's just the fashion in which they've gone about it each week.
Mhm.
There's been the consistency, and I really did talk about and stress and want to stress the power ability to score big, which they've shown, and they've equaled a record, but just to not let teams score against them. They've got great defense. They've got unheralded players back there and some
Mhm.
stars in the making. Young Maya Fremantle, Marley
Yep.
Feegit obviously comes from great footy
Yep.
stocks with her dad Nigel. Um, I don't keep using the word, but it's the organic growth, it's the spread.
Yep.
And for mine, the Eagles women's team are not only the story of the Sanfl W season for mine, they're the story of the Sanfl South Australian football at state league level in general.
Yep. No, 100%. And then
Now,
I
hang
gotta
on,
get
Darcy, am I getting another free meal on next Thursday night now? After all, is
but
that enough?
I
Yeah.
I also want to go. Their leadership has been amazing. Annie
Yeah,
Falkenberg, who's their
yeah.
stalwart
Absolutely.
back. She's been absolutely fantastic. She got the captaincy for South Australia this year. She's just been absolutely magnificent. I agree with you. The young talent has been amazing. Darce, again, have your fun, sir, because I don't think I'm jumping off too high a cliff to say the story is the Eagles for you too.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, you got Annie Falkenberg, Poppy, she has got the knee. Leah Cutting, Sophie Zool, she played state footy. Christina
Yep.
Levizzi, state football as well.
Luetzi.
So,
Yep.
Yep.
Luetzi, sorry, good.
She
And
was
look,
fantastic in that
she
game too. She
was.
was incredible for South Australia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then Claudia O'Neill, she's back. Mackenzie's, kicking the 4 goals back from a year out of football. So it's coming together nicely. But as I said, Narelle's so good at just saying, look, yeah, great win and enjoy, but let's just, what else can we improve on? It's always that they always wants that improve, which is fantastic.
Yep. I jumped the shark by 1 year. I joked with Norell about it at the start of the year. I said, I think I jumped the shark 1 year on your making finals. And
Mhm.
it's been amazing. I'm gonna kind of caveat it with two. There's the great story that is Woodville West Torrance. 100% agree with you because they've been incredible. It's been fantastic to watch them play footy because, as you said, I've watched this team grow over the last 3 seasons to go from a team, as you said, Phil. I mean, it was a markup. You were going to lose. That Woodville West Torrance was a win for whoever they were playing. Last year, you saw glimpses of what they could
Mm.
be with wins over Norwood, who would eventually make the grand final. Some really good challenges against South Adelaide, but they would drop games that you could tell when I chatted with Norel. She was like, that was there. That was there. We're just
Mm.
missing that little bit. And this year, it's like all the
Yeah,
buttons have
100%.
clicked on the register, and it's just really hit really well. And then I have to go to the negative. And again, I've mea culpa'd this myself big time. and that's the descent of Norwood and Glenelg this year. Because as I think all three of us at the start of the season looked at those two teams as being teams that could make grand finals, that could win a premiership, and unfortunately, right now they're at the bottom, and we've seen that again. Glenelg get their first win of the season this last round in scintillating fashion again. It's been a lot of change at Glenelg. I think that hopefully we'll see the jump up, and Norwood again. We just something just has not clicked with this group
Yeah.
this year again. Unfortunately, like I said, Brad steps away. What can Ali Farrell do now at the top reins while they do the head coaching search? Which, like I said, I will throw. My thought is I think Ali should get the full-time job. I think she's an incredible young coach. I think she would do well at a club that she has so much passion for. Um, but that for me, the negative story, unfortunately, has been the descent of Glenelg and Norwood this particular season. But the good thing is, it's given us these great teams like West Adelaide and North Adelaide that who knows what they're going to do if they make finals because they're scrappy sides that just don't give up. Absolutely cannot wait to see how that goes. So we'll jump to the men's side for the burning questions, and I start off here is Sturt sit at the top of the table with the Crows and the Tigers nipping at their heels. Are these the three teams that we're going to see fighting for the minor premiership, or could we see another team come out of the woodwork in the second half of the season? Darce, we'll start with you.
Yeah, look, I don't think so. I think you look at between, we've only played the 6 games. There's only 2 games between Eagles, who are sitting fifth, and Sturt's only 2 games there. Then there's the 2 games between fifth and sixth is unusual for after 6 rounds. So that's where I think, and obviously with North Adelaide, sorry, they're struggling a little bit. So I think that's the 5 is set for another at least a few weeks, and then we'll see what happens after that. But I think the top 5 now is about what we're going to see in the finals, and that's an early call after round 6
Mm-hmm.
because
Phil?
that gap between Eagles and North.
Oops. Yep. Phil?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say the obvious one for mine, and it's Central. I think they've probably surprised a few in terms of being where they are for the start of the season. I certainly wouldn't have had them as 5-1 come 6 rounds. Probably had them around the 3-3 mark. But also looking in a little bit of detail at their draw, they probably had a favourable draw to start the year. They were playing some teams where you would think, based on level form, they would go in as favourites. What's going to be fascinating for mine is the next 3 or 4 weeks is challenging for the Bulldogs because they take on Sturt, they take on Norwood this Friday night, who are obviously at the bottom of the ladder, but coming off of a win. They've also got the Eagles after that as well, and take on Port Adelaide as well, who can be a bit of an unknown with their AFL entity. So for mine, I think Centrals have been favoured by a good start to the year from a draw perspective, but are doing their top 3 chances absolutely no harm by winning 5 of their 6 games. They've got a healthy percentage. They're kicking bigger scores. And we sometimes probably forget that, myself included, that actually we're only a couple of kicks away from making it into a grand final. They obviously were defeated in the prelim last year, but I think they surprised a few last year and they're surprising a few this year. So the doggies, I think, are certainly going to be in the mix.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So, and yeah, I'm looking at this, and Darce is kind of taking a little bit of my steam out of my next question because my next question is it concerning that there's a 2 game gap between the last spot of the finals and the first spot out because we're only 6 rounds through and there's already a 2 game gap between the top 5 and the bottom 5. Is this concerning as a Sanfl supporter? Because if Darce is making a call after round 6 that the finals are set, personally, and this has always been my thought, is that when the finals are already set early, the season it loses a little bit of steam. Phil, your thoughts?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from in principle, but I think just look at Norwood. Before their win against South Adelaide, they were at bottom of the table. And all it takes is one win. Yes, there's a 2 game gap between sixth and fifth, but Norwood went from bottom to seventh in 1 week. They had a healthy win.
Yeah.
They obviously restricted South Adelaide to a lower score. And it doesn't take long. It's a season. The season is a long season. There's 18 rounds plus finals. It doesn't take long for, you just need your team to get a bit of a form run. Norwood are a capable team of doing that. They, of course, played in the grand final last year. I think if the gap gets to 3 or 4 games, then we can probably put a line under that. North Adelaide, I've always, in the last 3 or 4 years we've done this, I've always talked to them of a Jekyll and Hyde type team. On paper, they're a great team. I think they're a little bit off kilter now with their current coaching situation. But I think the 5 will stay the way it is. Just not sure whether the mix will be the same. And I do think that, that there is a bit of a gap forming. And if it does continue to form any more, that I think will can almost lock in those top five sides.
Darcy, your thoughts is are you at all concerned as a Sanfl supporter that the 2 game
I'll
gap?
probably, yeah,
Yeah.
spot on. I'll probably change it concern to strange. It's strange to see after six
Mm.
rounds, two games that split fifth and sixth. And as you said, the North, South, Port, and Westies are on one game win after six rounds. So you're right. Once North win one game, they're sitting seventh at the moment. So that is just unusual. I think I see that. Then you see this week we've got the Panthers. Now look, based on what you see here on the table, that we could win that game. And then obviously Glenelg are playing Westies, so you think they'd win that too. So we're looking at the top five, maybe pushing an extra third game if or North Adelaide playing Port. So again, they may win that, but it's got to happen for another few weeks. We're going to be 2 games clear, I think. But it's just unusual to see it so early in the season.
Yeah, so I'm like I said, I never you don't want to see the gap forming between the two, and
Correct.
I agree
Now,
with
yeah,
Phil again.
exactly. Yeah.
It's still very early, so hopefully we see the competition even out a little bit. I think you also have the fact that some of these top level teams still haven't played each other, so it's gonna bring them back to the pack a little bit too. So I'm crossing my fingers it happens, but it's a little worrying when already there seems to be the haves and the haves nots a little bit forming on this particular. So that is it for the burning questions for this. Let's get to tipping. We will start with the women's, and I will tell this already now. We are going to tip the Eagles South Adelaide last. I want to save that for last because I'm interested to see what you fellas think. So let's start off. First game, Cooper Stadium. I'm interested to see how this one goes. Ali Farrell takes the reins for Norwood, taking on the Central District's Bulldogs on Friday night up here, Saturday morning for you guys. We'll start with you, Darce. Doggies get the win, or does the new coach Bounds help Norwood knock off the Doggies?
Oh, look, I think it'll be obviously. Yeah, I think Phil said before that whenever we change a coach, I know it's his wife, but change a coach, you do see something happen the week after. I don't think not against the Bulldogs this weekend. I think Bulldogs going to win quite comfortably, actually.
All right, Phil, thoughts,
Yeah.
Norwood, Doggies, who do you like?
Yeah, look, the head says Central, the heart says Central as well, and I think whilst it would be good, and Northern are kind of my second favourite team with the Farrell family coaching, and obviously Ali with their first game. Centrals are keen to hang on to that top four position. They're going to be disappointed with their showing last week against South, and I think the Dogs will get up in this one will be a bit tighter than I think people think, and I reckon maybe Central by 3 goals.
You stole everything that I was gonna say, Phil. Like literally, like the only thing I was gonna say was is that there will be a little part of me that's barracking for Ali and Norwood a little bit,
Yep.
just to see the some joy because I think Brad will get some joy to see his wife have some success though in the
Yeah.
first game of the season. But I agree with you. I just think Central's is just playing a little bit more consistent footy. There's a disconnect a little bit between midfield to forwards when it comes to Norwood a little bit this season that is rather frustrating. Can Ali change that in 1 week? I'm not sure. We'll have to see again. Central's is coming off a loss to Glenelg. Does that zap them a little bit because they are fighting to try to make
Mm.
finals this year? We'll have to see. I agree with you. Tipping doggies, silently barracking, or not so silently, to be honest with you, barracking for the Red Legs to have a competitive, whether they win or not will be the question on that one. We'll go on Thomas Farms Oval as Sturt take on North Adelaide, a cracking one here.
Yeah.
Phil, this is a good one.
Bit of a flip of the coin, but for mine, I
I agree.
think based on form, I'm going to go the Roosters. Up and down Sturt have been a little bit inconsistent, and I just don't know that they've got the firepower or the defensive prowess to stop North Adelaide, who for mine have been somewhat of the surprise packet outside of the Eagles dominating. North Adelaide have had some real nice improvements. So yeah, the Roosters for me.
All right, Darce.
Yeah, I agree. The Roosters as well stirred it too much up and down, but the Roosters just got a little bit of consistency, and
Mm.
I think just it's going to be a great game. I said, what was it, third versus fourth, and then you got.
Yep.
We'll go into the next game. Then you got top versus second. So we've got a couple of bull terrors of a game this weekend coming up. So it's going to be great Eagles for me, of course, but I'm gee whiz, it's going to be a cracker game this one with the Eagles. But two great games coming up, and looking forward to the end results.
Yeah, the Saturday slate is fantastic. Like
Yeah.
legitimately love it. Like I said, you got the the doggies Norwood, this one, and then
Yeah.
the absolute titan that is the next one. I'm with you, Phil. I 100%. I think the Roosters a little bit more consistent this season.
Yep.
Sturt's been up and down. I've liked the way the Roosters have been playing. It's been fantastic
Mm.
to watch them play. That, like I said, scrappy ball club. Layla Ebert has come up and played some really good football, and I was
Yeah.
happy to see that she got the South Adelaide jersey to play some of the state league games. It was fantastic. Like the Roosters in this one as well. Like I said, we will save the Titan matchup between 1 and 2 for last. We'll jump down Stratorama Stadium, sees the Glenelg Tigers coming off the win. West Adelaide, as you said, Phil, not in the best of form. Can the
Mm.
Tigers get two in a row?
I think they can. I think confidence is an amazing thing, and as I touched on before, for every loss you have, you're closer to your first win. And winning form is it's really it gives you them the confidence to go on and do it again. So I actually am going to tip Glenelg in a bit of a low scoring arm wrestle. I don't think we'll see 100 points kicked from either side, but I think the Tigers should get up in a close one.
Alrighty, Darce.
I agree. Toga's at home, only because it's at home, I think. And the Bloods, they just when they lose by big margins. So,
Mm.
so the Tigers for me.
100% with you, fellas. I think the win gives them some positive momentum. There's some confidence in the room. They probably have a really good week of training. The girls are up and about. I agree. Thinking the Tigers on this one. Let's go to it. The Titan matchup, 1v2. Like I said, this could be a preview of the grand final if things go the way they have been going this season. Darce, we will start with you. Head versus heart. Can the Eagles keep the undefeated run, or do the Panthers spoil the season?
No, look, I don't want to be biased, but it's definitely the Eagles for me. Even just take off my Eagles hat, I will take it off. I thought Eagles just watching their
Such a
last half,
stretch.
but
Such a
it's
stretch.
just just they're playing some awesome footy. As it's talking about cutting in the middle of the rucking all day, and we just even though Poppy's left, but the people have stepped up. You know what I mean? So we
Mm.
did have an Irish girl, Kaylee
Cronin. Yep.
Curran, yeah,
But
KC.
she'll only
So
be there for probably another round or so because with her
one
being
more round.
SLW,
So, but
they'll cotton
For the
wool her.
Crows,
Yeah,
yeah.
for the
yeah,
Crows. Yep.
so and look, and good luck. She's from Ireland. I think they went over there and saw her in a Gaelic game, and she brought her over, and she's one more game to go. And I think with her in there, I think they're just going to tip over the line. She's a gun player, even though she's obviously Gaelic a different code, but I think she's got the pace and the kicking style to help with that loss we had with Poppy.
All right, Phil, as an unbiased member watching this game, who do you like? Eagles, Panthers?
Das touched on it a moment ago. Cutting in the ruck for the Eagles versus Soraya Moon, the two best rucks in the Sanflw
Mhm.
competition. That's probably worth price of admission alone. And if I didn't have commitments moving house, I'd probably head along and watch this one because it'll be a rip snorter of a contest. And geez, I'm going to be a bit controversial, guys, and sit on the fence here and say the team that's in front when the final siren goes will win. I really don't know. This is a flip of the
No,
coin for
yeah,
me.
no,
I because I get free food from the Eagles, I'm probably just going to lean towards them. But honestly, I think South could win this one. I think the Eagles will probably just win this one. It'll be a fantastic contest, and potentially, I know we've still got 4 weeks to go, but potentially this could be a bit of a precursor for the Sanflw Grand Final.
yeah.
I'm 100% with you, fellas. I think the Eagles get it done, but I think the Panthers are in it to the end. I'm fascinated to see. The Panthers have always been a really good defensive team, and the Eagles have been putting up points like it's their job. It's going to be so much fun to watch this. I agree. Soraya Moodley and Cutting, that is worth price of admission. The
Mm,
midfields are both star-studded. Both defenses are really good. Both offenses can put up points when they need to. My thing is, I think Woodville West Torrance has put up more points and has been a little bit more consistently putting up points than South Adelaide this year, especially against some of the teams in the finals chase.
yep.
So for me, I'm going to tip Eagles, but again, as this is the perfect setup for the loss that could be good for the Eagles to kind of keep them motivated because
Mm.
sometimes undefeated seasons you could see the pullback. Tipping Eagles, but the Panthers are in this up to their eyeballs. I cannot wait. This is going to be so much fun. Like I said in the podcast, it's at 9:40 p.m. on my Friday night. I cannot wait. The iPad will be up. I will have my bowl of popcorn. I am going to enjoy this game live. I cannot wait. Such a great game of footy that we are going to be treated to. this week. Now we jump to the men's round seven, if I believe. Yep, I'm
Yep.
correct. Round seven. Here we go. Friday night footy sees Norwood Oval, sees the Norwood Redlegs take on the Central District Bulldogs. Phil, as the Bulldogs fan, head versus heart. Can the doggies get the win against the Redlegs, or is there a tiny bit of concern the legs at home can pull out the Jockeys?
Well, obviously a week off for most clubs for those that didn't play in the state game. So I think both sides will be well rested. Any niggles that they would have had from week prior, you have to go with the Bulldogs, regardless of whether you're a supporter of them or not. On form, on ladder position, they're playing some good footy. They're going to have a fascinating Indigenous round. It's First Nations round, so there's some brilliant Guernseys I've been privy enough to see. So keep your eye out on the respective club socials for those. The Nord and the Centrals ones are just amazing. They're some of the best Indigenous Guernseys I've seen in a long, long time. But I'm commentating this one with young Paddy Goldsmith. I'm very much looking forward to it, but I think I'll be calling a doggies win.
Okay, Darth.
I'd love for Jay Sheedy to win two in a row because obviously an ex-Eagles premiership coach. He moved to Norwood and hasn't had the best starts of the season. Good on him for that first win, but I think it won't be this week for a second win
Yep, doggies,
against the
doggies
Bulldogs.
from yep, doggies for
Way
me.
too
Just
strong. Yep.
just think just the tiniest bit too consistent, a little bit more consistent for me. And they have to get the wins against the teams towards the bottom of the ladder. You cannot
Mm.
drop some of these points because you're going to need it because it looks like Sturt, Glenelg, and Adelaide are going to be strong this entire season. So staying with them again, 5-1 to start off, been great for the doggies to play well. So got the doggies in this one. Alberton Oval sees Port Adelaide take on the North Adelaide Roosters. An intriguing matchup here. Fascinated on this. Darce, who do you like in this one?
Look, I think look with Jake Surgeon being moved on, I think the Roosters probably look that happens when you move a coach on, something does click and they win the next game. And Port are struggling big time this year, so Roosters for me. I know it's at Alberton, but the Roosters for me by a small margin.
All right. Phil?
Yeah, I agree with Darcy's comments, and we touched on it that it does normally seem to lift the team. And I think one of the key things we've got to take into consideration is the injuries that have occurred to Port Adelaide or Yada Pulti,
Yep.
as they'll be known during Indigenous rounds.
Yep.
The injuries at AFL level are going to filter back through to the Sanfl level. And I touched on it right at the start of the year. I'm not sure that the Port Adelaide or Yada Pulti's depth is the same as it is at the Crows, and that's why
Yep.
the Crows are where they are in this position. So, factors of the North Adelaide element with Sargent moving on and the injuries to Port Adelaide sees me tip to North Adelaide. I think by maybe 3 or 4 goals.
Yep. I'm with you on that one. Jason Horn Francis and Lockie Jones both going down with AC with hamstrings. So I
Yep,
called that game the hamstringomania because there were four in that one game
with
at,
Geelong as
at
well, the
Adelaide
two
Oval.
boys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Buse, Dangerfield, Horn Francis and Jones all go
and
down with
Jones.
hamstrings all in one game. So it's like, yeah, I'm with you on this one. North Adelaide, I think Port Adelaide's depth is going to be tested more because a couple more are going to have to go up and play AFL level because of that,
Mm.
which only decreases the strength of depth in the Sanfl competition. So North Adelaide for me. Stratorama Stadium sees Glenelg take on the West Adelaide Bloods. I have the Tigers in this one. Bloods towards the bottom, Tigers towards the top. Simply look at ladder for me on this one. Again, sometimes you never know what's going to happen, but I like the Tigers in this one. Phil, your thoughts?
Yeah, keep it short and sharp on this one. Glenelg for mine. Westies will obviously be, have a bit of confidence from their win the week before, but for mine, the Tigers should win this one very, very comfortably.
All right, Darce.
I very comfortably as well. Tigers be a big win for them.
Ooh, fun one here. Thomas Farms Oval 1v3. Sturt versus Corwana, the Adelaide Crows. Darce, who do you like in this one towards the top of the table
Sturt,
matchup?
Sturt at Unley. Thomas Farms over, but Unley over. I think Sturt they're undefeated. I don't think this will be the one they need to lose, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I think the Sturt for me.
All right, Phil.
Yeah, concur. I think the Double Blues are in some good form, as I touched on earlier, the only undefeated team. And some talk with the Goanna or the Crows for their Indigenous round playing at AFL level. They play West Coast Eagles, and some talk that they're going to rest the likes of Taylor Walker and maybe some guys with some niggles. So, of course, that means guys playing in the Sanfl are going to have to step up, which means it tests the depth
AFL
again of
level.
their Sanfl. So, I think Sturt probably for mine at this point in time premiership favourites, and they'll be
Yeah,
favourites in this one as well.
yeah,
Yep,
agree.
was gonna go with that too. That it wouldn't be surprised with a lighter opponent in the AFL again. You never know.
Mm,
West Coast
mm.
did have quite the win this week, but I think that was a little bit of emotion back to a little bit too. I agree with you. Could see some resting, which means your depth is tested a little bit. I agree. Start for me on this one, especially being at home, and we end the round. Woodville West Torrens at home against South Adelaide on this one. Darce head versus heart. Can the Eagles knock off the Panthers?
Look, I think we can. This is definitely taking the Eagles' head off. I think like we beat the Crows. We just lost to Glenelg. The two the other sides in the finals. I think Panthers are struggling this year. So Eagles, 3 or 4 goals, I reckon. Just
Mhm.
to like keep that source. We're getting our momentum now, if that makes sense. It's just we start a little slow, but now we're just getting momentum. So it's good that we do it that way rather than last year we started like a bullet gate and died in the last half of it. Now it's the other way around, which is good.
Phil, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you'd have to say the Eagles on paper are going to be a stronger side, but I think South not to be underestimated. I think maybe just slightly, if there's a weakness in the Eagles, it might be the defensive half. And South have got some pretty potent players, particularly young guys, Corey Groscock, Noah Howes. If the Eagles' defence don't respect those younger South forwards, then they might find it a bit closer than they were perhaps anticipating. Source Jacobs, whilst he's obviously only raw to Sanfl league coaching, he's got a very experienced head on his shoulders, and I don't think he'll let that complacency set in. And for mine, I think the Eagles should get this one done by maybe 3 or 4 goals as well.
Yep, with you on that one. Think the Eagles, but like I said, this South Adelaide, it's a young side. You just never know
Mm,
when they might
mm.
have their blinder of a game. So we'll definitely for sure on that one. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is all of the games tipped for the upcoming rounds of both the men's and the women's. Again, it is so much fun to sit down and talk with these two fellas. It is fantastic. So, Darce again, wish the Eagles girls all the best. It has been so much fun to watch, and the
Yeah.
men as well. Sauce Jacobs is doing absolutely the best that he possibly can at the Eagles. It's been fantastic to see your side play footy this year. And Phil, again, best of luck with your calls. It's always so much fun to be able to tune on to the game and go, which game is Phil calling? I catch myself sometimes messaging him going, hey, what game are you calling? So I can make sure that I sit down and listen to it because it's always so great. So again, best of luck with your calls, Phil. Best of luck with moving house this particular
Thank
week.
Yeah.
you.
And
Thank you.
hopefully you get to sit down and enjoy some of the footy because the Sanfl is going to give us some excellent matchups this particular round of both the women's and the men's competitions.
Yeah, and Coach Donny, just before we go, I think it would be remiss of me not to give a shout out to a Western Australian colleague, Paul Persick. I know we haven't really touched on it too much with the Waffle defeating the Sanfl, and I commentated this game, and South Australia looked good early. I'll be honest with you. In the first 10 minutes, we were 2 goals up, and I thought, yep, this is going to go to script. Full credit to West Adelaide, I think, to Western Australia rather. A young team, 14 debutants. Paul and I were chatting during the week. He was great at giving me some insight to the Waffle players. So a big shout out and a big thank you to Paul. And for the first time since 1994, so 31 years, South Australia have lost back-to-back state games. So we go back with our tail between our legs. Well done on the Hayden Bunton Junior Cup to the Waffle, and well done to their coach in making those brash decisions to take 14 changes in. So yeah, Victor's Waffle by 30 points.
Yeah, I know. I listened to Around the Waffle, and he was very much strutting around like a very happy
Like
rooster
a
with Paul
peacock.
Persick. He is very much a waffle man. I love Paul to death. I have
Yeah,
him on the
very passionate.
podcast. I absolutely love him to death. His calls are fantastic. I joke with him a lot, like with Phil. I consider him the voice of the waffle for me personally because it's really who I hear a lot of. Same thing with you, Phil, with when it comes to the voice of the Sanfl. But I love it that he's very passionate about it. Like I said, he was chuffed like no other that they found a way to get the win. I didn't want to talk about the state stuff because I know unfortunately the Sanfl has not exactly had the greatest state league
Mm,
performances, both for the men's or the women's, with only the win coming from the women against the Waffle in their state matchup that they started last year. Unfortunately, the VIX game kind of got away from the women again. The
yep.
AFLW talent was there, and I think it just kind of overwhelmed the girls a little bit. But again, it's great to see state league footy. I love the state of origin footy. I'd love to see more, but I
Mm,
just don't want these competitions to lose a little bit if they start playing it at the AFL and AFLW level. That's my one worry is if they start doing that, will it affect the matchups in the state league games for personally for me? So yeah, it's been fantastic. Again, Thank you, fellas, so much for hopping on the podcast. It is always fun to sit here and talk Sanfl footy. Both competitions have been so much fun. I joke with a lot of people. It takes a lot of time to sit here and pay attention to all of the state league games, but the competitions have been amazing. It has been so much fun. So that is going to do it for the end of this particular episode. Again, keep an eye out. More footy coverage still to come. If you like what you listened to, please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.